Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, salesperson overcommits, no surprise there. Tales from Gansa. A train isn't good for Cokes. Popcorn. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Salesperson overcommits, no surprise there. Long ago in my first sysadmin job, early 2000s, our infrastructure included a rather fancy file server. We had got it through a donation since it was too expensive for us to have sourced ourselves. It took up a half a rack, multiple shelves of disks plus a controller unit. It had a capacity of 100 gigabits raw, which we thought was really cool at the time, but we finally filled it up and started dickering with the vendor on an upgrade. The company gave us a pretty good deal on a new unit, but wanted us to trade in the old one. Clearly they didn't want the parts turning up on the second-hand market. No problem, just make sure it's in your quote. After we had the quote and I was working with our purchasing folks to get a PO, someone pointed out that this device used proprietary utilities for stuff like data migration. Was I sure we could the data off the old unit? I had not considered this, and luckily, I ran into the sales guy shortly after. I mentioned this concern and he hand-waved the issue. No problem at all, they'd do it for free. I was surprised and asked if he could email me an updated quote that stated this. No problem, more hand-waving, and he did. We got the new system, got it installed and configured, and scheduled an overnight outage to migrate the data. It then turned out that our existing unit was so old it did not support the newer migration tools. We were on the phone for hours with various support types, none of them had experience with our old unit. We scrubbed the migration and put old machine back in production. Needless to say, the next day was a huge mess of phone calls and emails, while the vendor tried to figure out if any of their tools spanned the generations. I was worried we were going to have to do a backup/restore using NFS, which would have taken forever. Finally, the lead sales guy notified us that a certain tool would work, and we rescheduled the migration. To perform the migration, both devices had to be in single user/maintenance mode, and we could not SSH in. Access was only possible by a serial console setup, so we connected an old VT100 terminal and kicked off the copy. And we got nothing on the console to indicate anything was happening. We let it run for a while and noticed that we could tell the disks on both machines were doing something, based on watching the LEDs. We finally halted the process, tried to figure out if it had done anything, then restarted it. We noted that when we halted the process, it did display some output that indicated some amount of data had been copied. We finally decided we had to just let it run. The senior sales guy was with us and spent a lot of time on the phone with their support trying to find out if there was any way to monitor progress. Nope, you had to stop it and restart it. It should be picking up where it left off, but no one was sure. At this point, I'm talking to my boss, figuring my job is probably on the line. He was pretty good. Worst case, we give them this new unit back since we had not paid for it yet. After all, data migration was part of the deal. But we just let it run. Almost 3 days, which we had calculated based on the numbers we saw when we stopped and restarted the migration. It eventually finished. We powered down the original server and reconfigured the new one with the same hostname and IP as the old one, and brought it up. And everything worked, and we now had space to spare. The sales guys were all pretty sheepish, but the main thing they wanted was for us to load the old unit into the trunk of their car so they could ensure it never saw the light of day. I went through several other upgrades/migrations in the following years, and we never had an issue like this again. Of course, we never let the old and new units get so far apart in age either. Tales from Gansa. First of all, sorry for my English, not native speaker. This situation was a couple of years ago. I worked maintaining and fixing computers, monitors and fiscal printers in a large company that manufactured eyewear such as glasses and contact lenses, and that kind of things. There were like 50 different stores in all of the provincia, I would say state, I guess. One day I get a call from the cashier in the furthest location we own. I'm talking like 2 hours by car at least from HQ. Me, hi, this is IT. How can I help you? Gansa, yes, hello, this is Gansa from far away location. We are having a problem with the fiscal printer, is not printing, and we don't have Talenarios de facturation. This is a piece of paper you use to write the receipt by hand in case the fiscal printer is not working. Me, okay, let's check the basics first. Is the printer connected to the wall? Gansa, yes. I already checked. Me, is it on then? Gansa, how can I tell? Me, she uses this 100 times a day and didn't notice the green LED? It should have a green LED and a second LED blinking constantly. Gansa, no, I don't see anything. Me, okay then, I'm on my way. I hang up, grab my tools, a new printer. This is a problem because we need to configure everything for that store in particular, we can't just exchange it. A power cable, a serial cable, yes, I know, obsolete. 2 Talenarios de facturation, my car keys, and drive to the store. 2:40 hours of fighting traffic. I arrive at the store. I walk in the store, I speak with the manager, and give him the Talenarios, and he thanked me, and I get behind the counter to check the problem. Took me 4 seconds to know that the printer is not plugged in the wall. But I don't see any socket available. In this store, we make the counters with the correct amount of sockets to plug in the essentials alone. The employees have lots of sockets available in the storage room for personal use. I check the only one that doesn't look familiar, and follow the cable. It was a charger for a phone. The cashier unplugged the fiscal printer and connected her phone. I calm myself of the bloody rage that is coursing in my very core, and call the manager. I don't speak to him. Just point to the cable and keep pointing up till I reach the wall. His face was priceless. Manager, Gansa. Gansa, scared what? Manager, dis you connect you charger to the wall? Gansa, clueless yes. Manager, and you had to unplug something to do it? Gansa, yes, but everything was working when I unplugged. Oh. Me, yes, about that. Didn't I ask you if the printer was plugged to the wall? Gansa, yes, but I did check. Me, well, you checked wrong. You know where I work? I came ASAP from HQ, 2 hours and 30 minutes to get here, and you unplugged the printer to charge your phone. Why didn't you use the storage room for that? Gansa, mumble something. Me, what? Gansa, I can't see the notifications if the phone is in the storage room. Me, grabbing my things, I'm going to report this to your sales supervisor since is a direct breach of the sales agreement and your contract. You can't tamper with the hardware in the store. Manager, realizing the fault is also his, I can manage this issue, don't you worry OP. Me, yeah, I know how you manage things apparently. I will speak with the supervisor anyway, I have to report this issue in the ticket. Good night. Without a single word I left the store and went home. The next day I reported everything in the ticket and sent a mail to the sales supervisor and the sales manager, my manager and the store. Gansa wasn't fired, but quit a week later. The manager was demoted to cashier, and I got 1 more week of vacations from my manager. The end. Thanks for reading, and we'll see you again in the next one. A train isn't good for cokes. Worked for an ISP/cable company years ago, and this one stands out. We had a ticket for an install to a house in a rural area. This house had a train track that ran behind the home, and the box on the pole was on the opposite side of the track as the home. It was a newer area that we serviced, and therefore it required a drop to the house from the pole. Tech was sent out for the install and realized the problem, proceeds to call it in. Tech wasn't certified to hang a line on the pole. Supervisor instructed to continue with the install. He did. 5 o'clock CSX comes by and runs over the coax that was laid across the tracks. Of course the tech was sent back out again, and was instructed to replace the drop. He did. 5 o'clock CSX comes through and slices it again. After a few more of these work orders it was put in to elevate the drop. He did. About 6 foot off the ground. 5 o'clock CSX comes through and grabs the coax, proceeds to rip the wiring out of the house, exploding the cable modem on the wall, knocking the PC off the desk and TVs off stands, damages to the bricks on the house, other. Cable company had to pay for repairs to the bricks in the house, and all damaged equipment. Customer had full package free, or as long as they lived there, all channels, fastest internet, etc. I kept up with the documentation on the account while this was going on, and I am glad I did. This was before smartphones, so I couldn't get the proof, didn't carry a cell phone at all back then. Best story I've ever ran into working tech support, almost hard to believe, but 100% happened. Southeast USA. Popcorn. This happened back when 802.11b was state of the art. A buddy and I were giving training on new software to users at multiple locations. We would be at each location for 4 to 8 weeks. We had a suite of equipment that consisted of an entire standalone network that would be isolated with no external connectivity. The servers included DCs, Exchange servers, and the necessary components to make it work. The students were using laptops that would connect to the system using 802.11b Pumpshia cards. I told you as was a while ago. At one site every day at 0930 the student laptops would lose all connectivity to the network, same time every day, and come back up after a reboot of the WAP. That damn WAP took about 10 minutes to fully reboot. We started scheduling a break for 0930 or whenever the network died. After a couple of weeks of head scratching we discovered an ancient microwave on the other side of the wall from our WAP. Turns out one of the office workers made popcorn every day for his morning break, and that damn microwave leaked so much RF in the 2.4 band that it would knock our WAP offline. Yep, popcorn took us out. Fix action, move the WAP across the room and recommend to the local building manager that he get a new microwave as that old was probably a health hazard. For those interested, we were in the U.S. Air Force, and we were giving training on the Defense Messaging System, DMS, secure messaging system to secretaries and other office workers. Some of those secretaries were barely able to use Outlook, and we had to try to train them to use DMS. Fun times.